If you want to survive past 2040, read this guide. Let's get straight into that. Who am I? I am a time traveler from the year 2060. My name is Rowan Elders, but that's not important. The only thing you really need to know about me is that I have your best interest at heart. Frequently asked questions. Question: why are you posting this here? Answer: there are a massive amount of places that I can post this on the internet, but very few of those places would actually read the entire thing, even though you won't think I'm serious. If you need to think this is some twisted entertainment in order to absorb the information, then I hope you're entertained. Question: what caused the apocalypse? I have no idea. There's no internet to look it up, no books to read about it, no way to really find any information on the topic. The only reason I know it happened in 2040 is because my parents told me about it. Question: how did you get to the year 2021? I have no idea what sent me here, or why I am here, or if I can change anything. But I might as well do my best, right? Question: if you don't know how to time travel, or what caused the apocalypse, why am I even reading this? Did you even look at the title? This isn't about stopping the apocalypse. It's about helping as many people survive it as possible. With that out of the way, let me start to tell you, for lack of a better phrase, what the apocalypse is, and some tips on how to survive it. What is the apocalypse? I don't know what caused it, but I do know that it wasn't nuclear. Something just happened. As far as I'm aware, it affected people at random. The really lucky ones died instantly, and some, according to my dad, or it was around 10%, were completely unaffected, and the rest were turned into mindless monsters. And if you want to survive, follow these 11 rules. 1. If you see a light in the distance while traveling at night, ignore it at all cost. They're just trying to lure you in. 2. Don't go into the forest or the ocean. That's where the worst things live. 3. If you hear someone screaming the words, "Hey, your name, help me," close your eyes, shut your mouth, and stand still as possible. Even if you're currently running away from something, what the callers will do to you is infinitely worse than anything you can imagine. 4. If the stars go out, get to cover immediately. 5. If you see a blue translucent triangle hovering a foot above the ground, step into it. We don't know where they lead, but it has to be better than here. 6. Don't drink any cans labelled Perry can't. They didn't exist before all of this happened, and there's no way of telling what exactly will happen to you. But I can guarantee that it won't be good. 7. Don't eat the meat of any of the monsters you kill. Nothing will happen the first time you do it, but eventually you won't be able to stop. 8. When you're dreaming, if you see a man wearing a suit and tie trying to give you things for free, don't take any of it. You can't pay him back. 9. If you find a doorway that's completely unconnected to any other structure, don't go through. I have absolutely no idea what's on the other side, but I have heard the screaming that comes from it. 10. Do not pray. The angels aren't here to help you. Don't try to get their attention. The same goes for demons. 11. In the event that you find yourself being followed by an exact copy of yourself, ignore it for as long as possible, while it's lying to you, and no matter what it says, it can't help you. I have transcribed several entries from the notebook I used to document monstrosities below. Please note the examples I chose are not the most dangerous, but rather the most common. Name: Couples. Appearance: it looks to be a ball of pale, outstretched arms with a mouth on each hand. The center of the being is some kind of gooey black mass. Behavior. Whenever any human comes within 10 yards of it, it will open the mouths on its hands and release a high-pitched scream capable of shattering the eardrums of anyone too close. How to kill. While the gooey center mass seems to be extremely flammable, and while igniting it will cause it to begin screaming, any damage that it will cause can be avoided with earplugs, and sometimes these can be useful to distract other things. Name. The Beggar. Appearance. Extremely similar to the blobfish, but roughly 6 feet tall on average. Behavior. The beggar will do exactly as its name suggests. It begs for death. If you get close enough to try and dispatch it with a knife, a tentacle emerges from its mouth, wrapping around the torso of whomever comes near it, and pulling them into a mouth filled with thousands of razor-sharp, rotating teeth. How to kill. There has not been a method found to consistently dispatch the beggar. Bullets seem to do nothing, and fire just makes it beg louder. Avoid, if possible. Name. Cruos. Appearance. A 10-foot tall humanoid, very malnourished, completely covered in thick black scales, save for its giant white eyes, and a mouth permanently curled into a giant smile. Behavior. Seems non-hostile. It simply watches from a distance, never moving closer or farther away. I once knew a guy who tried to chase one down and catch it. I found his body several days later. His eyes ripped out. When I asked him if he was alright, he just screamed and gibbered about his blood being poisoned. He put himself down a few minutes later. How to kill? Just avoid. Doesn't seem to be worth the ammo. This is the best I can do for now. If I can find the time, I'll post some more later. What exists in the forests of 2040, and why you won't survive them. Let's get straight into that. I'm glad to see that so many of you have read the prior post, and while I believe the first entry in this guide works well to give you a vague idea of what not to do if or when you find yourself in this horrible world. But I would ideally like to expand on each rule, tell what I know about it and what you should do if you break that rule, and possibly tell a story about it. The Rule 2A. Don't go into the forest. If you break the rule, just don't. There's no reason to do so. But if you do, then you run the gamut of being eaten by predators like wood bears and dakes, or never leave them. Why you shouldn't enter the forest. From what I've seen of your time, most forests seem to be relatively harmless, in some cases even entirely safe. But after the year 2040, this is not the case. Forests have become something similar to an ocean. The trees on the edge are still a normal size, but the farther you go in, the larger they get, and the worse you'll find. And while I've never been dumb enough to enter the forest, I have been told stories of what lies within. There's something that looks like it used to be a bear, completely devoid of fur, and roughly the size of a house. Carnivorous beasts that look like the bastard children of deer, and snakes, and a strange pale humanoid creature with a long neck and a creepy smile, and spindly limbs. It's worth noting that I've only ever seen the last one. The first two I've heard about from an acquaintance that managed to enter the forest and survive. He said that if you manage to go deep enough, you will find things that can't exist. And while I had considered listing out what exactly he had told me, I thought it may be more interesting to simply transcribe one of his stories. So please bear in mind that I haven't spoken to him in years. And even when I did know him, he wasn't all there, mentally. Jay's story. I don't know why I did it. Could have been curiosity or a desire to learn what lies beyond the shadow cast by a canopy of countless trees. Or hell, even boredom. But, for whatever reason, I didn't stop after a few steps in this time. You already know about the dakes and the wood bears, but I found so much worse in the depths of that forest. When I noticed the first one, I thought that I was just seeing things. At a glance, it looked like any other tree, but the longer that I looked at it, the weirder it became. Why, it was just a few shades too light to be tree bark. It made a constant quiet low groaning sound, and the thing was sticky to the touch. Well, I just felt uncomfortable being around it, so I moved on. Every now and then I would find another, but I just considered it a surprising benign addition to this fucking awful world. And after hours of hiding and carefully making my way through the forest, I found something even stranger. A house, and I don't mean no new house that someone made in a forest, but I mean a house that was made with old construction methods from before the world went to shit. The entire thing was falling apart and the roof was half caved in. The door was jammed and almost all of the windows were smashed. But the cellar doors were perfectly preserved. More than that, actually. They were like new. No damage, no rust, nothing. When I opened them, they didn't even squeak. Now, of course, there weren't any lights, and I didn't have a flashlight, but I did have my lighter. I made my way down it. The stairs were perfect too. They didn't creak like an old house would, and they weren't damaged, not even so much as scratched. But that was just the beginning. When I got to the bottom, there was a large room, lined with shelves containing a variety of questionable articles. On the right side, there was a jar full of murky liquid, containing what looked to be the head of a human fetus. Said head was on a metal spider-like body, an axe covered in a blackish-red substance, and the corpse of a gigantic spider-like thing with 2 sets of legs. A bottle of sriracha sauce glued to the shelf and filled with some kind of black liquid that seemed to move on its own, desperately trying to escape. On the left side, there was a human skull that had the word Dave written on it, and with what I hope was red ink and a book titled, What the Hell Did I Just Read? But the really strange thing was the figure carved into the wall was almost humanoid. Almost. Its head was covered in eyes and tentacles, and 2 wings were outstretched behind it, and it was rising up from what looked to be a body of water. I would have taken time to draw the thing, but just then I heard loud, stompy footsteps coming from the ceiling. Well, that scared me so bad that I dropped my lighter onto the floor, and I noticed that it was covered in dried blood. I didn't stop to see whatever put the blood there or to pick up the lighter. I just took off out of the basement. Now, any smart person would have stopped and left the woods, but as you unfortunately know, I am not smart. Now, the strange trees that I mentioned before kept getting more and more common. I went from finding one every couple of hours to every few minutes to always having at least 10 around me at any time. At some point, when I hid behind one to avoid a horde of dakes, I finally figured out what was so strange about them. It was covered in skin. Pale, clammy, human skin. The more I pressed my hands into it, the more they sank in. I pressed my hand into it, down to my wrist, for, science. And I was barely able to pull myself out. And when I did, the skin on the tree stretched out. The imprint of a face straining against the skin, as if it were trying to escape the tree. Help me. The voice was raspy and garbled like the voice was coming from underwater. And then suddenly the tree was covered in outlines of faces and arms as at least a dozen different people called out, either screaming or rasping, but all were begging for help. And that was the last straw. I took off back where I came from, not bothering to be stealthy or careful, and just trying to get out of there as soon as possible. Every skin tree I passed was covered in the outlines of people calling out, except for one. I hadn't noticed it when I first passed. I was too distracted, but the tree next to the old house was covered in dead bodies. They were in various states of decay, each stuck to the tree upside down, and with a massive cut on their throat, like whoever had put them there had drained all of the blood out of them first. I took only a look back at my entire run as I passed the house, seeing someone or something standing on the second floor. It was just where the roof looked to be like it had caved in. I really couldn't make out their features. All I could see were two eyes that looked slightly too large to be human, and a massive grin. End of Jay's story. Please do not go into the forest. Well, Jay is the only person that's ever told me about what can be found in the deepest parts. I've heard countless stories about people deciding to go exploring and never coming back. And don't take how easily he managed to traverse it as an indicator of how it actually is, as I intentionally left out the methods he explained for avoiding bears and dakes, just to ensure that none of you would go in and explore if given the chance. Stay out of the oceans, especially in the future. Let's get straight into that. This is an ongoing guide that I've been writing to help those that find themselves in the year 2040 and beyond. You do not need to read the original guide to understand this one, but you may find my other guides helpful someday. It's probably a good time to talk about what the oceans will look like in the future. I've seen images of what lies in the depths of your oceans today. Eyeless monsters that have a taste for blood. Creatures with bioluminescence that they use to lure things in to their gaping maw. And all manner of giant monsters. But it gets so much worse in the future. Of course, I have never seen the depths of the ocean or what lies within the future. But I have seen what lives in the shallows. And things have ended up on the beach. What lives in the shallows? The shore trap. I've never seen the full body of this monster, but I have on several occasions witnessed horrible black jaws rise from the water, full of needlepoint teeth, only to grab someone or something and drag them into the shallow wet sand, kicking and screaming. Tunks. Occasionally, while near the beach you will hear random bubbling, tunk sounds, and later, near where you heard those sounds, you may find a ball of glass or a chunk of burnt meat. And there are small crustacean-like creatures that live in the sand, just like the shore trap. Well, as far as I can tell, they seem to have some kind of relation to the peacock mantis shrimp, which exists today. I mostly guess this as they can snap their claws or cause a chemical reaction hot enough to melt glass and cook meat instantly. And a major difference between these is that the shrimp that I have mentioned previously is their size and coloration. Tunks are usually around a foot long, and with the largest that I've ever seen growing to be 3 feet long. They are usually a yellowish beige color, the exact coloration of sand. Please note that these are not all of the creatures that live in the shallows, just a couple that should help you extrapolate the sort of things that live there. What I have found dead and washed up on the beach. Water people. I know it's not a very good name, but I didn't come up with it. Every so often, I'll find the corpse of something that looks a lot like a person, washed up on the beach, but with a few key differences. Their hands and feet are webbed, and they have grey smooth skin, blank yellow glowing eyes, and a mouth full of rows of serrated triangular teeth. I once found one that was still alive, missing an arm and bleeding a disgusting smelling greenish red blood. When I tried to talk to it and help it out, it lunged for me, trying to sink its teeth into my leg. I think it's safe to say that these are likely hostile and should be avoided. Atossils. A large 20, 30-foot long snake-like monster, with a long slender body, 6 heads full of razor-sharp teeth, and 12 tails ending in large fins. I can only describe what it looks like, based on 2 separate bodies that I have found, and as such may actually look somewhat different from how I described it here. The first body that I found had large chunks taken out of it, as if it had been eaten by a school of small creatures, and the second one was half eaten, its heads and necks still attached by little more than a thick strip of flesh. The bite mark on the creature looked smooth and uniform, as if something far larger than it had been trying to eat it in a single bite. I don't know. I refuse to give this one an actual name, as I dearly hope that it is merely an isolated instance and not something that exists commonly in the oceans. I only found the decayed remnants of a head, but it was 30 feet long to be specific. 31 feet and 7 inches. I measured it. I looked crocodilian, with a round cone-like teeth. That sort of details I have on it. I have never seen what it looks like as a whole, and I never want to. And I especially never want to see whatever killed it. Just so you're aware, I typically don't list out every single monstrosity or creature that I know of, but in this case, I have just listed out every single monstrosity I have ever found washed up on the beach. Why the ocean can be useful. Now, despite everything I just typed, there are still reasons to stay near the beach. Other living creatures, like dakes and cruises, will avoid going anywhere near it. And fishing can be useful for finding food, and if you can manage it, then potable water can be made from seawater. Tips for fishing. Don't eat anything that looks like an abomination. It probably is, and eating them can cause issues. Don't eat fish with human eyes either. If something rips the fishing rod out of your hands, do not go in after it. Make sure to stay out of the water while fishing. If you see 2 light orange lights right next to each other watching you, those are eyes. You're done for the day. Leave immediately. Aside from that, common sense and logic apply. Other. Look up elsewhere how to make a seawater purifier. It's fairly easy, given you have the right tools. Mine, for example, was a metal pan with a lid that had a hole in the top, combined with a pipe that let boiled water rise up, and then pass into a separate container. Good luck to you all. If you have any questions about what was written here, please feel free to leave a comment. If I can answer it, and if there are a lot of comments, then I'll answer them at the end of my next guide. Wow. Certainly another one. Wow. Short but intriguing story there from the incredible mind of Rowan Elders over on Reddit No Sleep. Big thank you, Rowan. Really enjoyed your story and certainly look forward to more of this in the future. And of course, I hope you enjoyed my rendition. Well, guys and girls as ever, you know the drill. Please do let us know what you thought down below in the comments box. Please do like and share. It really does help build the channel and our community further. And why not hashtag TeamFEAR and DMT's Cryptid Crew. Just less than 500 subscribers to go to the 40k subscriber mark. Big thank you to each and every one of you who have tuned in for many years now, and of course a warm welcome to all of your brand new subscribers. Of course, if you have a story to share with us or you're an aspiring writer, please do get in touch with me at the brand new contact email, which is contactthedeadone@gmail.com. I really look forward to hearing from you. I hope everybody's well and happy and looking forward to a nice warm and relaxing weekend with friends or family, and you're keeping fit and focused. But above all, guys, remember, be safe, not sorry.